different modes.
Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian,
yeah. I'm going to write them down. Please, I'm going to write them down now. Will you do that for me?
Yeah, of course.
Because I can actually do that on all the black notes. So I'm playing the white notes, and all of a sudden, because the change of structure of the keyboard, the sounds of the white notes just make you do different music. It's like the heavens opened about 2 weeks ago. And so, with Jacob Collier and this, I'm okay now. I will never moan again about, things not happening. So I just finished an album last year called 1,000 Hands. I started it in 1990 in Big Bear. It took 20, 30 years for it to be finished. And it's some of the best music I've ever done, I believe. I got Billy Cobham to play on it. I got Chick Corea to play on it. But he asked me who would I like to play on the record. I said, anybody who worked with Mahavishnu.
Wow.
Because Mahavishnu was like an incredible blast of information for anybody who knows music. When you first heard Mahavishnu, we actually saw them do their first gig. It was in New York State at the university up there, and the headliners were the Kinks. And we were on second on the bill in the openers with this band called Mahavishnu Orchestra, and we heard about them, John McLaughlin a little bit. And so we went to the sound check, and we were just standing there. I turned to Chris and said, "We've got to rehearse a lot better." This keeps happening, So.
All right, great. I got another question. Okay. On Tales of Topographic Ocean, so I know that was inspired a lot by the autobiography of a yogi.
Sure.
And and I guess Jamie from King Crimson introduced you to that. Is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And I was just curious, if you could speak on that a little bit more. And is this like a theme with amazing musicians? Because I heard also George Harrison was into this book. And
sure.
You have a copy of Steve Lukather.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a nice. I went to Bill Bruford's wedding, and I'd just seen King Crimson play in London, and there was this wild, crazy drum percussionist guy. I can explain in a second because you're all musicians. So there was Bill at the front of the stage with a very tiny little kid doing like that. And then Bob Fred and the other guys, and there's this sort of fur waistcoat on, long black hair, and he looked like a wild man. He got big pieces of metal hanging at the back of the stage, and he would call a run and jump against them with metal gloves or something. It would make this incredible sound out of the stage and dance around like a lunatic. I couldn't believe it. I mean, the band was very tapped, and this guy was going around and creating sounds that I'd never heard before. And at Bill Bruford's wedding, Jamie was there. And I just said to him, "How do you do what you're doing?" It's because it's unbelievably beautiful. And he just said, "Wait a minute." And he wrote down Autobiography of a Yogi by Manasi Yogananda. And that was the first instance of connection with the divine. Because we're all surrounded by the divine. It's here, it's now, it's always here, it hasn't gone away. We're just learning about it on a continual level. You can call it God, you can call it anything you want, but it is the divine that you are connected to. Everybody is through your connections, which is more to do with your dormant. Most of us have got a dormant third eye. You have to wake that up, you've got to meditate. And I'm having trouble this year, but I still sort of believe in it because I had a big awakening about 97. When I first came to live in Los Angeles. And I had an awakening. I met this little old lady, and she was the connection of the divine energy that surrounds us all. Ramakrishna was the one who came from the Orient saying, you people, they're all the same. Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, Buddha. always in Christ. Well, okay, you're all Christ consciousness. And I was really loving that, and still do. But it's always, it's never that easy to meditate in this crazy world that we live in. But when you do, and you connect with your third eye, and you connect with the divine energy that surrounds us all, and that's what happened when I read the autobiography of Yogi. It took years. You know, it took me 20 years before I met this whole divine mother, Flora, this lovely little lady from Honolulu. And she didn't know who I was, but she let me sit next to her, and then she looked at me and she said, "Oh, John, you are very ripe." I said, "Thank you." So let's meditate. So we meditated. 20 minutes later, now, John, you have to practice to go back there, okay? So, oh yeah. Took a long time to even get close to that incredible interconnection that we have with the divine. Nothing to do with reality as we understand it, and materialism or anything like that. It's your God-given right to be divine and connected to the divine. And so that's what I've been singing about ever since Close to the Edge of Reality and Realization. Okay.
Before every show, do you have rituals that you do?
Yeah.
You know, to feel comfortable.
Yeah,
and
I just go
dissolve?
quiet. You know, I just sit very quietly, and I think to me there seems to be an upsurge of energy around at the moment that's very blatantly confused, divisive, and blatantly ugly, and it's blatantly against the human condition. And I think a lot of us feel it. You know, we see it on TV, we see it every day. And it's not good, it's not healthy, it's got nothing to do with reality in the sense of we're connected to nature, we are nature beings, we are Earth Mother, we are connected to all the beautiful, beautiful things that surround us in the Earth Mother. So in a way, that's what we're here for, is to wake up and dream. And that's what they were saying in the 60s, and this is the time now. The 2020 is all about the 60s. It's wake up and dream again. Come on, for the future of our everything. Isn't it amazing when you think about it that, you know, Earth Mother saying, wake up and dream. Save yourselves, save the planet. Save yourselves, save the planet. I gotta write a song.
And so you're an artist too, a visual artist as well. So I checked out some of your paintings. Can you talk a little bit about the art that you make and what inspires that, and if that in turn inspires songs or vice versa, and how you got into Chagall and what that all means to you?
Well, I just met Chagall on his 90th birthday in 1977. I was down in south of France, and Bill Wyman lived about a mile away, and Bill Wyman is the funniest guy I've ever met. Bill Wyman, I played with Stone. And he said, come on to Chagall's 90th birthday. I had no idea who he was, really, to be honest. And I just fell for this guy, 90 years old, surviving, and he kind of looked over at me now and again, and then he sort of looked at me and waved, and there's about 40 people in this restaurant. And then I was asked to go and spend a little time in his home. And he was still painting, 90 years old. And then I found out that he'd been stained glassing for the past 10 years, and that stained glass is unbelievable. And when he was 70, he actually did the artwork for the Magic Flute for the Met in New York. And it was all costumes and everything at 70 years old. So it made me realize I want to be 90. So I'm not far off. I'm 75 now. So I think when I'm 100, I think I've done what I'm supposed to be doing and make me feel good about why I'm here. And, so I paint. I love painting, but I don't do it that much, you know. I don't do it as much as I should do, should I say. But I've always got paint in my bags and when I'm traveling and paint my shoes a lot. Things like that. But, you know, so I've got artwork all over the house and the studio and everywhere. Just little bits of I found some the other day, like 6 drawings that I've done with. Wow, these are pretty cool. I can't remember when I did them at all. And they're all little fairies, the beautiful fairies around flowers and things, you know.
That's amazing. Okay. Well, I know that everybody here is probably eager to ask you some questions. I'm going to open it up to the floor here.
I was wondering if you're going to tour your 1,000 Hands again, or are you going to do Volume 2, and are you going to go to Europe?
Right in the middle of everything. Doing exactly that, what we are. 3 days ago, I was in Orlando singing, finishing 2 songs for chapter 2, and hopefully 1 for now, because the album hasn't come out really yet. So we're going to meet the record company. It's a crazy world these days, you know. Can you please record and release an album, please? Is that okay? Things like that. And then they say, okay, we'll release your album when we're ready.
And have you read the Warriors book yet that came out a few weeks ago?
I read a bit about it,
Yeah, Dave Watkinson, I think, has done a lot of work on that one.
Yeah. It's kind of intense to go back 60 years, because I actually saw the Beatles with my brother in 63, April, and they hadn't become famous by then. So I was in a band called the Warriors. So this guy wrote a book about that 6-year period, and it was pretty intense for me to reread it, because it was intense, because you don't know why you're in a band, you just want to be a Beatle. That's it, you want to be a Beatle, like everybody else in the world. Because the Beatles changed the world, musically speaking. And as Jake Collier going to do, and it's doing it.
When you did Yes in the Round, how was production prior to the shows on that?
Woo-hoo.
It was amazing.
It's pretty cool, because it was Chris's idea, actually, in the round. And I kept saying, what, we're going to be on stage that's going round? She said, yeah, it's going to go slowly round like that. And that people will see the band better, because the band was so far away, 10, 15, 20,000 people. We were just so small on stage, you know, that's why we started using lasers and things to project, you know. So in the round, I said, okay. And it was very well put together by Mike Tate, the guy who was our first roadie. And he became a worldwide renowned stage designer. He has a company out of Lititz, Pennsylvania. And we got, you know, how are you going to get us in the round? And he said, don't worry, I've got it sorted out. It's like, we'll bring it in like pieces of cake, and it'll all stick together. We have this little one engine going round a track. And it actually worked. And the problem that I had initially was, well, where do I turn to? So I had the microphone coming down, right? And I got to sort of dance like this and sing, and you get into the mode of it all, and you see people again, you go, hi. So
I like how those two factions come together as one. You know, you had 2 parts of Yes.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, that was years later, but we did it the Union tour. I mean, yeah. Well, that was in a way. It's such a long story. You know, I was already involved at the end of the '80s with ABWH, because I thought, you know, record companies said, here's a bunch of money, go and make a record. Not like we do today. Here's a bunch of money, go and make it. Okay. So I just decided to get together with Rick and Steve and Bill. And it was a joyous occasion, you know. And then the second album just wouldn't work, because they wanted to do it their way. I did the first album my way. I did it my way. You know? Right. I just knew how to do it. It's very simple how I did it. I spent one day with each of them, collected cassettes of ideas from them, like that. And it was very quick. Get in with to find out more about this. Steve had written a couple of ideas on songs, long lost brother of mine and things like that. And I said, oh, because I would always finish his sentences. He'd go close to the edge, down by the river, round at the end, round by the corner, river, and season will pass you by. Change the key, quick change the key. I'll get up, get down. And that's how we work music. I sort of sing to Heidi, before I know it, we're really a piece of music. So when we toured together, it was amazing. And then to make the second album, it just didn't work out. So I was sort of in limbo about whether it was going to work. And then I got a call from Chris out of LA, because they were floundering a bit about what they were supposed to do. And we said, okay, so the manager said, oh, why do you all get together and be friends? I said, okay, let's do that. And that's why we went on the tour in the room. It was a lot of fun. Because, you know, you had Alan White and Bill Bruford, very different drummers. Same with Rick and Tony Kaye, very different keyboard players. I always remember Trevor.
Right.
Never got on. But I always remember Steve, like, I was on a podium in the middle of the stage, and he waved me over and said, can you tell Trevor to turn it down? I said, okay. I go over and look at Trevor, I said, you doing right. Because I just wanted them both to do a duet on stage as two guitars, acoustic. So it'd be such a moment, incredible for an audience to see two great guitar players. It's the way life is. Sometimes you want things and they don't happen. But that's okay, because better things will come.
I like that.
Sorry.
Sorry, I had a question about Turn of the Century, which
Oh,
I think is like the most beautiful song ever written.
thank you.
And I heard you do it at a little theater in Pennsylvania, Keswick Theater, of
Yeah.
just yourself.
I learned the chords.
I was gonna say, so like I've heard it live,
Yeah,
which is like a church,
yeah.
and I've heard it stripped down,
Yeah.
which is the spirit,
True.
soul. What do you hear when you set out to write something like that? Did you hear Steve's intro, his interludes?
No, it was very simple because we were living in Switzerland doing an album called Going for the One, and I was living up in the hills with my family, and I just I woke up one morning, looked at my kids, two first kids in sleep, and I wrote, as I was driving down, I was writing wondrous stories. And I got home institute and started writing. I wrote this morning, love led me down by the river. Just looking at my two little kids asleep. And then Alan came in and he started playing the piano. These really kind of cool chords, about 4 chords. That's all. And he kept playing them over and over. And I'd go over and finish a little painting that I was doing. And I went over and said, can you play those chords again you were doing? He said, yeah, okay. So I started playing and I started singing, realizing a form out of stone, set hands moving. I could see this idea of a sculpture being created by the sculptor about his lovely wife. And then the story unfolds that she passes away and he still wants to finish the sculpture and bring her back to life. That's the basis of the song. And so I was already dancing and there was some lyrics and Steve arrived an hour later and he started playing the chords. So I said, Steve, don't play the chords. Alan's playing the chords. Why don't you do like a solo all the way through? Because we're just going to keep playing these chords over and over. Just listen to the melody. Just and we were recording at that time, so we were just doing a demo. And I think it was the 3rd time through. I know it was. Because I said, okay, stop the tape. Keep the tape. Steve, learn every note you just played. Because what you just played was immaculate. And God bless him, he did. He actually learned everything. And that's how the piece became what it did.
What song? Turn of the Century, one of my favorite songs of all
I
time.
just had a quick question
Oh.
about Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Oh.
Because I know you were super crazy about the lyrics for a while, and I'm just curious, how did you reconcile and navigate adjusting that and making it to what you visioned it to be lyrically.
Yeah.
With Trevor Horn.
Well, Trevor was a strange character to me. Because he tried to be me before in the band. This was not quite the best thing to do for him. So when we started doing like I said, Chris, I'll go to the studio tomorrow. And I went to the studio and there was Trevor Horn. How you doing? Nice to see you. And he said, so we've got this song. And I said, yeah, the chorus is a hit. There's no question. You know, the record comes, everyone says it's a hit. Okay. But they've done a version with Trevor singing, which was a melodic sort of song. And I said, just the way the production is, it should be a more staccato song, like da da da, da 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 da, da 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 da. Trevor said, could you do that again? I said, yeah. Move yourself. You always live your life, never thinking of the future. You know, and you do that right away. By then, I'd gone through quite wonderful experiences with a guy called Vangelis Papathanassou. It took me a long time to be able to say that. So his idea of music was, to get it done, we got to go and have lunch. You know, okay, let's just do it. It was spontaneous, called jazz, called chance music, and I'd never done it before. So I got into that framework of thinking, wouldn't it be great if I just went and sang the lyrics at the same time as learning the song? Just doing that would be extraordinary, because as we all know, when you write a song, you get a melody and put it on tape, and you remember the melody, and you think, what's the song about? Rather than thinking, what I do is I just sing, and I hear the lyrics, and I sing them. And even when you can't really, in the first take, you can't really understand what I'm actually, the shape of the voice is saying something. And then I've learned over the years to actually hear what I'm singing, lyrically. And if you get it right, it's perfect, because you wouldn't sing and do a lyric at the same time. So it's not the norm. But some of the songs that work are when they're just spontaneous, like pure jazz, chance music. Is that a question? Sorry.
I got a follow-up.
Sorry.
Part two of that question.
Oh.
I had Alan as one of the counselors in the camp about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I got my CD.
Yeah.
And he said, I got a song. He said, I got a song. He wrote it. This ain't rock and roll, this is jazz. I knew jazz.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was great. I got it recorded. We recorded it.
Right.
I've got the CD.
Right.
And he signed. And I didn't know he wrote, like, he's a drummer. I didn't think he was like, I didn't know that.
He's a played the piano, just loved it.
Yeah, he is. He knows how to write.
Very good musician.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So my question is more about some of the intricate pieces that you've done. So, and you just mentioned going for the ones. Who comes up in a song like "Awaken"? Who comes up with that kind of time signature?
It's interesting. It's interesting. The story is very, very simple. Because we were on tour. I was going for breakfast, and I walked past Steve's room. The smoke is coming from his door, and he's playing.
Dum dum.
I say, yeah, okay. I'm going to breakfast. Okay. So I go to have breakfast. I come back, he's still playing it. And I opened the door, so I said, could you modulate? Another one. Bum, 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 bum. Keep going. Start the tape. Okay. How many chords can you play at the same same time without repeating. And he said, "How many do you want?" So he goes, I start the tape. I can send man say goodbye, stop the light, gain the flower of okay, now go back to the first chord again. You know, and that's how you do it. You know, it's just spontaneous event. And then there we were in Montreux recording it, and lo and behold, we were just messing around, and bless him, can't remember his name, sorry. Our keyboard player didn't turn up.
Patrick.
Patrick, yeah, sweet guy. He went to Brazil. It's a long story. But he wasn't there when we were doing it. This involvement and stuff. So we sort of didn't panic, and then we got a phone call from our manager, Brian, bless him. He said, "Rick wants to rejoin the band," and I went, "Oh, thank you." And then, so Rick comes in, and so we're sort of halfway through the process of building this musical event a week, and I get to that point. I remember when we were doing it with Close to the Edge, we get to a certain point where you want to breathe, you want to let go, and that's why you finish with the middle section of Close to the Edge, which is the ocean of nothingness, and then it comes in. And so I wanted the same sort of thing to happen, but I was, you know, at that moment in time, I was painting the lyrics, and I had a harp, because I always have my harp with me by then, and I just love playing it because it's like holding the same key. Like any note you hit is going to be okay. So, you know, we tried a middle section. I said, you know, Alan, have you got any bells things? And he said, "I've got some crotals." I said, "Great." So he got his crotals out. I think they're called crotals. I don't know. That's it. And then the harp is playing. So we started going through it, and Chris comes in and it's beautiful. Oh, peace. It's like heaven, you know. And then Rick starts playing the solo, and I said, "No, wait a minute. Guys, it's not working, sorry. Rick, have you ever played a church organ?" He said, "Oh, yeah. I said, "Can we find one?" So we went to a local village, Vevey. Is it Vevey? Might be Vevey, maybe not. And Charlie Chaplin was living there, I do believe, because his son kept coming to the recording studio. "Would you like to meet my dad?" I wouldn't know what to say. You know, Charlie Chaplin, you gotta be crazy. So the idea was very simple. I went to the church with Rick, this beautiful church in Vevey, and it's where Stravinsky wrote Rites of Spring. Same village, right next to the ocean, to the lake. Anyway, so, you know, I'm in the cloisters and playing my harp, and everybody all mic'd up, and we had microphones around the church. And the interesting thing we found out is that the Switzerland phone system is pure. There isn't a problem with it. So you could actually have a little mixer in the church, plug it into the phone system, and it would connect to the phone system in the studio in Montreux, 15 miles away. So we had headphones on, we had Chris and Steve and Alan in the studio, and me and Rick were in the church. And that's how we recorded that whole middle section. I think we actually recorded it a couple of 3 or 4 times, you know, but then me and Rick decided this section works, that section works, we just want to get back to that section and this section. And great, I didn't know where we were going to go.